Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Tommy Says. And last week was really generous. Many things happened, so I would like to cover three things today. Number one is a joint announcement of shooting organizations in UK about phasing out lead and moving to steel shots. Then I'm going to talk about deer cull in Killarney National Park in Ireland. And finally, I cannot not mention the Hampshire Hyenas Project. So stick around. So early in the week, a number of countryside and shooting organizations in UK, including Basque and British Game Alliance, Game and Wildlife Conservation Trust, the Moorland Association, the National Gamekeepers Organization, Scottish Land and Estate, Countryside Alliance, and so on and so forth, issued a joint statement about a 5-year period of moving away from lead in shooting and moving towards steel. This is pretty much in line what's going on in the EU with relation to ongoing push to ban lead in shooting and fishing. I made a series of videos in relation to that, and you can see that now in a card on the screen, so click on that to learn more. Long story short, it looks like everybody is moving away from lead and towards steel because of known health and environmental impacts of lead. So what they're trying to do, they're trying to get ahead of legislation, and should there be official ban on lead, they and hopefully shooters should be already good to go, moved away from lead. That was also followed by a statement from ammunition manufacturers that they're going to be looking for alternative to lead. The unfortunate part about that is that where I live, many shooting organizations, for example, NARGC, are working through European Commission and through FACE, which is European Hunters Organization, to kind of make the proposed legislation, proposed European Commission legislation with relation to banning lead a little bit more fit for purpose. And they're working hard on that. So now with that statement from coalition of shooting organizations, it feels like a little bit like a stab in the back. And I can understand that point of view. My view on the whole issue of lead in shooting and banning lead in shooting, again, I made a video on that. You can click on the card on the screen now and listen to what I had to say. It's a pretty smart move to try to get ahead of the legislation, and should that legislation be approved and lead be banned, most of the shooters and hunters will already be good to go. Next one is deer cull in Killarney National Park in Ireland. So people familiar with the matter knows that the Killarney National Park area is massively overpopulated with deer, and deer cull is long overdue, and it was postponed and not happening for a variety of reasons. So finally, National Parks and Wildlife Service in Ireland signed off on the cull. The cull is in progress, and when that was announced, I was expecting the usual animal rights crowd being up in arms. And surprisingly to me, one of the deer hunters organization in Ireland, Irish Deer Commission, came out and took an issue with that call, which was kind of surprising. They made a few points that might be a valid point, and I don't want to discuss now whether those points were valid or not valid. Some of them were valid. The problem I have with that is that the fact that the call is happening is a good thing. It's long overdue, and I think that anyone in the know knows that and would agree. I don't think it's a good thing that actually Hunters Organization is coming out and is taking an issue with it, and they were all over the press and radio and internet and everywhere. And that really gives an ammunition to animal welfare groups. Oh, when I say animal welfare, what I really meant was animal rights. I have no problem with animal welfare. Who can say now, look, even deer hunters organization have a problem with that call, and then they're gonna probably raise the usual point of giving deer contraception and relocating deer God knows where. That's the problem that I have. Yes, the call may be not done perfectly, but we should be happy that it's happening at all. And I don't think that Deer Hunters Organization should be publicly criticizing that. especially that some of the arguments are aimed squarely at, animal loving squad. And finally, I cannot not to mention the Hampshire Hyena Project. So one of the previous guests on the podcast, you have a link again on the card here, Matt Cross, who's a field sport journalist. He admitted himself, because of the boredom caused by the terrible weather we have in this part of the world over the last number of weeks, he tweeted something like, I'm setting up the Hampshire Hyena Project, which aims to introduce hyenas to Hampshire to help control badgers, thereby removing the need for culling. I'm looking for board members who have no experience of either Hampshire or hyenas. And boy, it exploded. People start setting up Twitter account for the Hampshire Hyena Project. There were in the Times, in the papers, and it was just brilliant joke. A friendly jab at the rewilding crowd, and some of the rewilding projects where one of the fun thing is that Hampshire Hyenas has actually more followers than Link's reintroduction project, which says a lot. Obviously, Matt is not like a blanket against rewilding or reintroducing of species, and he wrote a blog about the success of that project or that joke. And I linked that blog in the description of this video. So go ahead and read it after you watch this video. But my comment on that is, in general, comment that I always make when it comes to rewilding and this sort of initiatives. I am really concerned that hunting and shooting organizations are not talking more about rewilding, and that somehow rewilding is pushed into the domain of, again, animal lovers, friends of the earth, and so on and so forth. Hunting and shooting industry is in general kind of like on the other side of the barricade, which is unfortunate, because I think that the voices of hunters and anglers, who are usually much closer to the voices of landowners and farmers, those people would lead much more sensible rewilding projects. And besides of that, I think that most of the hunters would love to see more game in the woods that they can go after. And the point that I was making many years ago is like, if any of those rewilding projects go ahead and they're successful in any way, whether it's a wolves or boar or whatever else, and they were done without involvement of hunting organizations and hunters, then simply hunters going to be locked out of this resource, and inevitably there will be need of control. And again, we're going to end up paying sharpshooters to cull those animals rather than tap into the resource like funds that hunters will gladly pay to go and hunt those animals and provide necessary control. If you learned anything or enjoyed this installment of Tommy Says, hit the thumbs up button, and you know the drill, like, share, comment, and I see you in the next one.